Thanks for tuning in to more NASCAR talk on Prime Sports NASCAR as we enter Phase 2 of the 2021 NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. The round of 16 is behind us. The round of 12 is here. And we almost got our wish of some fisticuffs after the race, only at Bristol. And yet, boys, for some stupid reason, they only want to race once a year without the dirt at Bristol. So go ahead. That's what you guys want to do, you know, and it happened perfectly because it was a playoff entering race. I mean, a round entering kind of cutoff. Yet the two drivers that were upset, they weren't going to miss the playoffs. So it had nothing to do with that. That's Bristol.
It was a perfect situation. It actually, all three races last week were at the end of the truck race with how Nemechek kind of slowed up and Chandler Smith kind of pushed him aside, and Nemechek didn't seem like he was actually really all that mad, just kind of played it off. And then he had the Xfinity race with the guys crossing the finish line side by side, spinning, and a huge big wreck.
Yeah, that was awesome.
The guy that wrecked.
Yeah.
And then you get the ending of the cut. And just like, you sure you want to do this one time a year? You sure? This is the perfect cutoff race now. Now the talks of them doing it, like, has got reverberated. Like, hey, do we want to do the championship here? This would be an awesome championship.
It would be.
Granted, it'll never happen because it's an SMI track, and NASCAR's never going to give SMI the championship race. But hey,
they should at least give them the race before the championship race.
Exactly. Hell, do the final round of whatever you want to do, the first round of 8 race, and then go Bristol, Martinsville, Phoenix. There you go. There's your ending that you need. But yeah, I was surprised. It still makes me think. I just wish the teams, PR people, will you let the two guys duke it out? Get out of the way. It's like Kevin Harvick's bonehead PR guy standing there. It's just like, and then he's gone. I wish Chase Elliott should have decked him first and then decked Harvick after. Let's get a brawl going. But yeah,
Harvick looked like he was, you know, it's like as soon as they split them up, then Harvick was going crazy. It's like, dude, why didn't you do that before you were split up?
I said the same thing.
When he was in Elliott's face, he made sure he had his helmet still on. But the second he put it up, that was when he decided to take it off. All I could think of was Paul Tracy. Like he gets so angry when people fight with their helmets on. He's like, take your helmet off. Like Harvick, yeah, it was weak. I wish they. You know, Elliott's not going to take a swing. Harvick might, but yeah, Harvick and his PR guy. Those are things you need to change to actually have it end the way everybody wants it to end.
Yep. Well, that was ridiculous. That when he walked over with his helmet on, I'm like, nothing's going to happen. Why would Chase? He was smart enough not to hit a guy at the helmet because you're going to be injured more than that. You could break your wrist and be out for the playoffs by punching a guy with a helmet on. That kills when football players do that. And then second, it's like Chase, to me, from what I saw, his hand was in. Chase was doing all the talking. Then it looked like Harvick was doing much. And then he put on, to me, I felt like he put on a show for the fans with throwing his helmet. Like
once he was separated. Yeah.
If you were that mad and you really wanted to fight and put on a show, you had a cool down lap. And a lot of drivers, if you notice, when they get out of their car, Chase Elliott, his helmet's already off. They take their helmets off on the cool down. Why was your helmet not already off? You knew what you were doing. You knew exactly what you were doing. And then to get mad at Jordan Bianchi for videotaping and going behind closed doors into the hall, I'm like, you never had intentions to fight Chase Elliott. That was for a show. That was you probably needed the publicity. I get why Harvick was mad, but that to me was more for show.
I didn't realize. So he wears glasses?
Yeah.
As he started, yeah. Didn't he start that last year?
He did. Him and Logano both.
Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, it was it's a typical Bristol race. There was a lot going on. It was pretty fun. And was there anything that was Kyle Busch the most disappointing driver of the night? Because I think we all had him last week. I think
I'd say him and Kurt both. I expected more out of him. Kyle just. And one we'll talk about when we get into our round of 12 talk, but he disappointed me a little bit. I'm a little concerned about Kyle right now. And he just didn't have the speed. He did not have the speed to contend, and neither did Kurt. I mean, as much as Kurt struggled on the track, he's good at. I thought both, to me, were very disappointing.
Was there anyone else that was disappointing, CJ? Maybe Denny Hamlin? I mean, he did lead 65 laps. You know what disappointed me about Denny was that I know there was still whatever at the time that he cut his tire. There was about 150 laps left, something like that, 100 laps.
Yeah, it's close. Yeah,
but it was almost like Denny, you're going to pass him. You're the better car. Why are you doing that? Why are you putting your car in a dangerous situation to cut your tire when you are going to pass this car? It's not the final lap. It's just a typical Denny Hamlin move. It's like, why are you being so stupid to do something that you did not have to do at that time?
Yeah, that move in particular was just not a smart one. Overall, though, it didn't disappoint me. He's good at Bristol. He was good again Saturday night. He wasn't great. He did get out and lead some laps. I was impressed by Keselowski getting up there. I was impressed by Harvick getting up there. I think in terms of disappointments, though, I think you're right. I think it's the Busch brothers, Kurt more so than Kyle. To me, I think Kurt had a lot of speed early in the round. He should have been through the round if he hadn't blown the tire, I would have thought, and then ended up crashing at Richmond. So to see him come to a track where he's exceptional at and just be nowhere to be found when he's in a hole, that's not the typical kind of Kurt Busch that we know.
So then was the most, besides Harvick, was the most impressive maybe William Byron? Because he was this close to being eliminated, and he goes and finishes a very quiet third. I couldn't even believe he was third. I said, how the hell did he get to the third? I didn't even see him all night up in the top five. And he didn't lead any laps.
No.
It was just, so I thought that was pretty impressive.
Yeah. I agree. Both he and Bowman, neither of them have great histories at Bristol to speak of. Both of them finished in the top five. Both of them kind of had their backs against the wall. Byron especially, but Blaney also. He's another one that doesn't have a huge history at Bristol, great history at Bristol. Comes out with the top four, again, proving that he's probably the fastest of the Penske guys if his team doesn't let him down. So I was impressed by the top five. Byron especially, just given the circumstances, but I am kind of kicking myself as well for saying that because we've seen him navigate the championship eliminations before. He's good at this type of format for whatever reason. And I think he just proved on Saturday, it doesn't matter what the cutoff race is. He's going to find a way to get through.
Does Harvick win the race if Chase Elliott doesn't interfere?
No.
I think Larson, still comes up and gets him.
Okay.
It kind of looked the whole race kind of like we previewed last week. Gibbs cars are going to be strong, minus Kyle. They pretty much were. Kyle Larson was the best Chevy guy. He proved he was, and the Fords would be strong. And you had Keselowski, Logano for a while, Blaney, Harvick. It was very Ford dominated up front for most of the night, and then at the end, it just Hamlin, like we said, like I mentioned, I was fearful of taking him as closing out a race, and look what he did. But he could be aggressive, and I think that played a part in it. Like he already got the stage points out of the way. He's battling Larson for the win. Go for it. I can see why he did that move, and granted it didn't work, but I can see why he tried it. And he doesn't make that move. Kyle doesn't have his pit pro problem, or was it tire? I think it went down for him. Some of those other factors don't come into play. I think you look up, it'd be Larson, Hamlin, Kyle, Harvick, the same guys that we thought it would be. So, Bowman and Byron I was going to say the same way. They're my more impressive ones because you look up and there they are, and now they're in the round of 12, and I think that's scary for everybody else because now that this is a good round for Hendrick cars, or now you might get all four past this round.
All right, well, let's take a look here then. The drivers that let's see, Reddick. I'm taking a look at the. Let me see. As far as our picks, I'm just gonna go over. Yeah, those are the preseason picks. All right, here are our playoff championship predictions for 2021, and let's see. Well, McDowell doesn't even count because we all had McDowell out. But at this,
he was in a different zip code. He wasn't even in the playoff zip code.
Yeah, Almirola, they almost found a way to get him in, and that was a gutsy.
Almost.
What's that?
Almost. Yeah, I was impressed by them as well,
Yes.
because throughout most of the night he was in up until the end.
Yep. Okay, so has anything changed for you, CJ, as far because let's see, the only driver that you had eliminated was Harvick. So has anything changed? Obviously, Harvick has looked a lot better.
He's looked a lot better, but he wasn't going to win Saturday. I think he was in the wrong to be as aggressive. I can see why he was as aggressive as he was. I think he was wrong to be aggressive after the race and blaming Elliott. I think Elliott was more than justified in doing what he did. And with the lack of playoff points that he has, I mean, he resets at the very bottom. Now I think it's going to be very difficult for him to get.
He's got to win eventually. He has to.
If he has to win eventually, but if he has one bad race without
done.
a win, it's over.
Okay, and what about you, Eric? Let's see. You also, Harvick, the only driver that you did not correctly predict would get out of the top, the round of 16. So, are you a little bit more impressed and maybe rethinking Kevin Harvick?
Not Kevin Harvick. There's a couple others I am, but Kevin's not one of them.
Who are you rethinking?
Kyle. I think I had him in the championship.
In a negative way. That's right. You have him as your champion. That's right.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, now look at these tracks, I think he's on upset alert. I think he might get eliminated this round. I don't feel he's only 8 points above the playoff or the bubble right now. Vegas is his best shot to move on, because then you go look at Talladega, no top 10s in his last 7. And then you go to Roval, 32nd, 37th, and 30th.
Oh.
So if he doesn't go well this playoff race at Vegas, Kyle may be on the wrong side looking in, because you look at, for the Hendrick guys, Bowman and Byron, who I thought would probably get eliminated this round, they're good at these tracks. And now they found some momentum with top 5s. I mean, you look at Byron, he was 8th in the spring at Vegas. And then you look at Dega, he was 2nd in the spring, 4th in the playoff race last year. If you go to Roval, he's finished 6th the last 2 years. And Bowman, he was 4th, 2nd, and 8th on the Roval. He's good on super speedways. He was 5th at Vegas in this race last year and 6th in the spring. So you compare that to Kyle Busch, and I just feel like they keep beating themselves. He crashed at Darlington, and he had a tire problem, speeding on pit road in Richmond, and tire problems last week. What's next? It just feel like it's like they flipped momentum. So I'm a little more concerned about Kyle right now. And if I had to pick today, I'd say Kyle's probably getting eliminated in the Charlotte Roval.
Well, I feel the same way, yet I'm the only one who didn't take Kyle this week. But I understand what you're saying, because this week it is desperate mode. And look, even if he doesn't win, I think if he has a really good race again, maybe leads laps, gets the momentum back, then I think he might be okay. But if he ends up 15th, a mistake, whatever, and he just doesn't do anything, and he's 10 points up, heading into the last 2 races, he's probably not going to hold on.
He's got to be, I feel, in my mind, at least 20 up. He needs a little bit of cushion, because Talladega, we've seen, they just are not good at Talladega. And that cushion's going to get eaten away. And then you get to the Roval, and obviously his finishes aren't there. But he needs some stage points, something. I just feel like something is amiss with him right now. He's only scored 14 stage points for the whole first round. It's just, you can't keep shooting yourselves in the foot. So I feel like he needs stage points at both stages, a clean day, no speeding penalties, no flat tires, no crash damage. Get yourself a top 5, and then turn things around. But I picked him this week because it's his home track, and they've got the potential to do so. He's good on 550 tracks, 1.5 miles this year, but I just don't feel good about it right now. I just don't feel good how they're running.
Yeah, because again, this is a D-shaped 1.5 mile, and taking a look at your notes, your track trend notes, Eric, you believe that this track is the most similar to Kansas out of the 1.5 mile tracks. The other ones are Homestead, Atlanta, Charlotte, Texas. This race went to 2 per year in 2018. They started in 98, which is this is still a young race. And if you take a look at it, qualifying hasn't really seemed to mean a whole lot, at least up front. Nobody's won from the front row in the last 6 races. So in saying that, and you're looking at the qualifying positions today, is there anybody that's in bad shape starting the race?
I don't think so, only because those past qualifying trends were before the metrics.
Yeah.
And setting the field that way, because it used to be this Vegas race was an impound race. So you had to make a choice. Do you go for speed and qualify up front, or do you qualify more on race trim? Because you race what you qualify. So a lot of Truex, a lot of the Gibbs guys would like, you know what, we don't need to start up front. We're going to come to the field anyways.
Okay.
Let's elect for more of a race pace qualifying sim, qualify 25th to 30th, who cares, because we're going to come up to the field. A lot of the Stewart Haas guys did the opposite, and it just like they flip-flopped as the race went on. Okay. So now you don't have that luxury. You're racing what you brought anyway. So I think it's going to be your typical clean air, 1.5 mile track at this point.
Are you worried at all, CJ, about any Toyota drivers based on the fact that they've only won once in the last 7? Chevy's won the last 2. Ford's been pretty good here. Or do you think it's anybody's race?
I think this is a Chevrolet race, to be honest with you. And if you want to get specific about it, I think just like Eric, it's a Hendrick Chevrolet race. If you look at who led laps at the track earlier this year, only one Toyota really did, and that was Denny Hamlin, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe Gibbs can get some speed going, but I think and given the fact of the situation where they are, certainly Kyle Busch would be the one of the bunch that I would want to, being his home race, come out, get a good result, do a Hail Mary, get that win. But realistically, I think it's going to be a Larson, Elliott, Bowman, Byron show, to be honest with you. If you're not in a Chevrolet, and if you're not in a Hendrick car, I'm going to rate you a little bit lower this week.
You agree with that, Eric?
100%. Yeah, because Brad Keselowski made an interesting comment in the media day leading into the playoffs that Ford's worst tracks are the 550 tracks. They didn't get to upgrade anything in the offseason. There's a parts freeze. It kind of is what it is with what they brought. Almirola agreed. All the Ford drivers pretty much agreed. This is their worst tracks, and the 550 track, they're behind. And you look at what Larson did there in the spring. Look what Larson did in Kansas. He dominated Kansas. It's just that late caution screwed him. And then if you remember right, he got that damage on the final restart. I think he restarted 4th on the top lane, got squeezed. I forget who him and somebody made contact and he went backwards. But
why do they think that's the case when you take a look at Ford, or at least just the Penske drivers? Logano has 10 top 10s in his last 11. He won in 2020 and he won in 19. Keselowski has 11 top 10s in his last 12, 8 top 5s, 2 runner-ups, and 3 wins. And Blaney is 11th or better in 8 of his last 9. Why do they think they're not very good at this track?
They think they're good there. They just don't. They know between last season and this, they had an advantage last season, they felt like. But there's a parts freeze because the new car coming out, they're not allowed to develop. And they felt like these other teams worked gray areas to catch up to them, and they passed them.
So they think they're good. They just think Hendrick's
everybody else is better. Yeah, there's nothing.
Because Keselowski was 2nd this year, Blaney was 5th, Logano was 9th. So this is why Hendrick should be the favorite. The Chevy should be the favorite, but we're not going to discount the Penske.
No, the Penske's are probably going to be your top Ford. They're going to be there. Are they going to have the speed to beat the Hendricks? No. If it's a pure pace, you line them up, they start going, and you don't have any fluke cautions. The Fords are not going to catch up and pass the Hendricks. We'll just say that. We'll just say the Larson and Elliott and Bowman and Byron are just going to take off. It's going to take a mistake from those guys or fluke caution and one of those crazy restarts where they go 3, 4, 5 wide.
Okay.
That's going to ruin it. If not, it's going to be a straightforward race for the Chevy. Like CJ said, it's just, can the Chevy guys not make mistakes? Because you could speed on pit road. You could get caught up in somebody else's mess.
Anything can happen.
So that's why you don't want to discredit the Penske's, but it's a Chevrolet race to lose.
Well, we've only taken 2 drivers, all 3 of us, the same 2. Do you know who that is? CJ?
No, Blaney.
Blaney's right. Yes.
All right. And then I have no idea on the second one.
Eric?
I'm going to say Blaney and Elliott.
No.
I know me and CJ
Why
probably
would you say
Larson.
Elliott? You didn't even pick Elliott.
Oh, that's right. I didn't go late this
He
week.
said
I don't know why I
Elliott.
said Elliott. Well, I looked down at my group and I'm like, did I pick him? Did I say him? I'm trying to think because I don't think you chose Larson, Greg.
Yes, I did.
He
You
did.
did? So
I
it's
don't
Larson
usually
then.
take Larson when he's
You
this
don't.
low, but since the numbers went up to 300 allowance, I threw
There
an
you
extra
go.
100 on Larson. I said,
I
let
was
me put
overthinking
100 on Larson. I'll show my chips over there. Just in case he wins and dominates, I'll get my money back.
There it is. Blaney and Larson.
Yeah. Blaney and Larson. And again, Larson, who won the race leading 103 laps in March, is coming off the win. So that's scary for everybody. He also won the Coke 600 this year. He dominated at Atlanta and lost to Blaney late. And so, yeah, look, it hasn't been. Look, he had 2 runner-ups coming into the win this year at this track. So he has a pretty decent history, and he's the man right now. So
I almost went all 300 on him. I almost did it.
It wouldn't have been a bad idea.
Because with Talladega coming up and a chance to win some money back, I almost pulled that trigger. I'm like, do I go all large? I almost.
Not a
But
bad
every
idea.
time I do that, I did that twice already. It bit me. I was like, dude, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on
Well,
me.
you
Like,
put
do I
half of
do
it this
again?
time.
So, yeah, I did. That's why I did it. That's why you saw the 150. I did it in half.
Yeah.
So, we'll see.
The only thing that it would be the little blemish is that his 19th place finish at Kansas. But, again, he did win here. And that's the most important
And he
thing.
dominated Kansas. I think he led 103 laps.
Oh, what
or
happened to
something
him
like
there?
that. That was the one he was leading towards the end, and I forget who it was, brought a late yellow, because I was covering the IndyCar race that day, and I caught the very end, and somebody calls the late yellow, and he came down. I think they all pitted. He exited 4th. He chose the top lane, and on the restart, he was coming. It was 3 wide, and somebody got into him while he was up top and squeezed him, and he had damage, and that's why he went back. But he would have won that race if not for that caution. I think it was like 103 of 267 laps he led. I think he swept both stages, that type of deal.
And that's the thing with Larson is he's not, unless somebody does hit him and he gets damaged. If you invest the heavy money on him at 3-1 at this type of track, you feel pretty good that all he has to do is, don't speed, don't get hit on the track, and he's just gonna be there at the end. And chances are he's probably going to win. So
I mean, he's got 4 top 3s his last 7 there, and that's even going to the Ganassi day. So I feel like it's his race to lose at this point. But
it is.
I've said that before, and they lose. So
that's the thing.
I'd rather just spread the money around. I'm going to kick myself when he's going to dominate and win. But
you have to.
That's why
you got it. You have to.
There's too many other guys that could steal it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And Kyle's at 6-1. The next pick here. Both of you guys put a little bit of money on Kyle. I was going to, but the problem was the way things are going. I just felt, 21st, 34th, and 35th in 3 of his last 4 races. That's not good at this time of year. But as you mentioned, he's been good on these tracks. He wins Kansas, 3rd at the Coke 600, 5th and 2nd at Atlanta, 10th at Homestead. So he's been good at all these 1.5 mile tracks, 3rd earlier this year here. But he also only has 1 win here in 20 races. So that's the other thing. I just decided, maybe this is a good week to stay away from him. DJ?
I think if you're going to take Kyle Busch this round for reasons that we talked about earlier, you got to take him this week. Otherwise, you're not going to take him for another 2-3 weeks. And the reason I chose him was because he got a 3rd here earlier in the year. So he has been quick on these types of tracks. I can't. I think he took a little bit of an extra breath or whatever you want to call it to get going earlier this year. So I think it was still really early in the season, but it was a place that he still came out and finished 3rd. He didn't lead any laps, but he was still able to finish 3rd. So I think that with that little bit of confidence based on the fact, knowing that he didn't get out of the gate very strongly at the beginning of the year, he's a little bit better now. I think we're looking at a better Kyle Busch, but I still think it's going to be a duel most likely between Larson and Elliott.
And again, he's got the win at Kansas, the most similar track to Vegas, but he's only led a combined 30 laps in his last 8 races, Eric, at Las Vegas.
Yeah, it's his home track though too. So I feel like the extra motivation that he knows. We've seen Kyle Busch back against the wall before, and more times than not, he comes out swinging and he does something miraculous. And I I just can't put it past him. That's why I thought about it for all those reasons I said earlier. And he doesn't come in with much momentum, but he knows, he has to know this is the race. If he's going to have a championship shot, this is the one. And extra motivation, Kyle Busch is usually, and he's one of the greatest that we've seen race in NASCAR, that I just can't go against the guy like that. So for 6-1, you're doubling the odds for Larson. It was too good to pass up at that point.
Well, everybody else now is right nip and tuck because you have Hamlin at 7-1. Again, both you guys taking Hamlin. He's never won at Las Vegas. He was 4th earlier this year and led 121 laps in this race last September, finishing 3rd. It's the best consecutive results that he's ever had at Las Vegas, CJ.
I am still back, or I'm back to, I'm not still on, I am back to that. I'm going to choose Denny Hamlin every week.
Uh-oh, that was fast.
He's had so much speed this entire year, and he's just had circumstances go against him. He was the only Toyota that led any kind of laps worth mentioning at this race earlier this year. So he's up there in my mind, and top 5 kind of guy, easily top 2. I could see that for sure. Top 3, most likely. He's just been that quick pretty much every single week this year. So I think he's due for more wins. I think we saw that last week, were it not for the cut tire and the incident. I think he probably would have been a little bit more in contention for the win again. So I think we're seeing Denny Hamlin about to win or close to win again, like we saw most of the season.
And he has Talladega next. So we know how good he can be at those types of racetracks. I think, though, he needs to have a good race. A decent race. I'd be a little bit concerned if he something happened to him in a negative fashion here after what happened last week. But with Talladega coming up, he should be okay. And
well, remember, the road course is what's last, though. So he should be okay at Talladega. But even if that screws up on him, who was leading at Indy before he got knocked out? It was Hamlin again. So I know we all think that that's going to be an Elliott and Larson, maybe a Truex battle. But Hamlin was in the lead, and he got taken out in that race, too.
If there's a thing to bet you could find this week is bet on stages, Hamlin and Larson are – did you see their stage finishes this last round? So Larson was 2nd, 1st, 4th, 4th, 2nd, 1st. Hamlin, 1st, 4th, 1st, 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 2nd. You're going to want to bet those guys to top 2 stay because you might get good odds. I've seen them before for betting stages.
Stage wagering.
Pretty good odds. Yeah. Hamlin's going to be there. Plus,
it's
I
like
think
halftime, first half.
It is. Bet the first half, yeah. Hamlin knows the value of points. And he's only plus 10 right now. If you look at right now where we stand, I would not be shocked if he won at least the stage, if not both. And I agree with CJ. I think Hamlin's probably the top Toyota driver right now. And he knows the value of this race because it could go the other way. Talladega could get caught up in something.
Sure.
The Roval, look what happened. He got spun by Chase Briscoe. He being only 10 points up, you could quickly be on the outside looking in too. So I think Hamlin, you're going to see a very strong day out of him. And if Kyle slips up, I think he's going to be your guy sitting there that's going to take advantage of it.
All right, then we talked about the Penske drivers. Logano 8-1. Gave you his numbers here. Even though he's only led 8 laps over the last couple of races, he does have nearly 500 laps led here over his career in 16 races, which is pretty strong. Keselowski was 3rd at Kansas this year and 2nd here, as I mentioned. So this is a good track for him at 9-1. And Blaney's at 15-1. I don't really get why Blaney's odds are so much different than Keselowski and Logano's. It doesn't make any sense. But hey, we'll take advantage of that. We all have Blaney this week. And like I said, he's been 11th or better in 8 of his last 9 at the track with 4 top 5s. And he won Atlanta, which is not too dissimilar. And at 5th. At this track earlier this year. But again, you're getting 15-1 on Ryan Blaney, who seems to be heading in the right direction again as far as results over the last few races, especially at a couple of tracks which he historically was not, a couple of tracks which he had issues at over his career. But out of the 3, Blaney is the guy that we all took. So I'm assuming he's definitely the pick out of all 3 of us, because neither of us took Logano or Keselowski.
I don't trust Logano.
Well,
or
Keselowski. All right, how about this then? Keselowski or Logano?
Logano. I was going to say, I think Keselowski's done. I just feel like they packed it in. I mean, honestly, I looked into this. If you look, the season's 36 races. You go back the last 18, just go back just 18 races. He's got 2 top 5s. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, that's not going to get, that's Michael.
Well, that's why I traded him. Not that it's helped me out any, but that was the hope.
I feel like he just needs a strong run. Being already -6, and they just don't see him. He's got 1 top 5 his last 10 at that. But Logano, he's got 1 top 5 his last 10 too, 4 in his last 20. It's just like sometimes they've got to get it going. Where Blaney just keeps rolling. I think he's the best Penske driver right now, and I'm just baffled.
But remember last year, it wasn't until about the 3rd round where drivers got hot. Like everybody was just kind of middling around, and all of a sudden, with the last 5 or 6 races, that's when it was like Elliott got hot. So and so. It's like everybody that was basically in the Final 4 got hot. So there's still time, theoretically, that as long as you just get to the Final 8, you can still get hot, and still, as long as you start winning races in the Final 8, you can win the championship, which is really great as far as the system is concerned, because it gives everybody new life after every round. So,
yeah, it's interesting. I think this just feels like the tightest points battle right now. Usually you have a couple of guys with playoff, like Larson's 45 up.
Yeah, Larson, if you throw Larson out of the picture, it's a wide open affair.
It is. And I think you look too, and it's interesting how we were beginning of the year, everybody talking, oh, look at all the parity. Look at all the different teams. Look at all, and then you look at now, 4 Hendrick, 4 Gibbs, 3 Penske, 1 Haas. But I also feel like those are all the big teams, and the points are so tight. Like you said, anybody can get hot, but what's going to take is you're going to have to win. I think that's what the moral of this is. And the only ones I feel good about that can win right now are Larson, Hamlin, Truex, Blaney. I think maybe Chase, but to be honest, Chase hasn't won outside of a road course in over a year. I mean, we're getting in on almost to a year. Phoenix, it's like
that's how we got hot last year. He just started winning races. Shocked
you us. Could look up. He may just win the Roval, and then you're going to get to the round of 8, and you may look up and he's going to get the Phoenix, and his only wins are on road courses, and it can very well happen. But I just feel like it's so tight right now. In the past, like I said, you've had this disparity of the big 3, the Kyle, Harvick, and Truex just ran away.
No big 3,
and
no big 2.
No, it's so tight right now. That's why I feel like it's going to come down to margins and speed. And that's why I'd be worried now that I think these other guys are like, oh, crap, we let all 4 Hendrick guys in. We had 2 of them out. And, these 4 are going to start taking up some spots. And it's now you're going to have a problem on your hands.
Well, you mentioned Elliott. So he only has 2 top 5s in 9 races at Vegas. But he's led laps. 22, 73, 70, 12. Only 1 top 10 out of those 4 races that he's led laps. Then you take a look. He's 9-1. Then you take a look at Byron is 16-1. 8th earlier this year. His best result. He led 25 laps. And he won Homestead. Was 9th at Kansas. Bowman, he didn't fare well earlier this year. 27th. But he's finished 11th or better in 3 of his last 5 at this track. Only has 5 lead laps. He was 3rd and 4th at Atlanta, 5th at the Coke 600. And he's starting to also maybe, and anytime Bowman or Byron kind of look like maybe they're about to get hot, you want to grab them while the odds are good at 16 and 20-1. So out of those 3 drivers, again, CJ, you're the only one that took Elliott. You didn't take the other Hendrick cars. Neither of us took Elliott, but I took Bowman and Byron. Eric, you just took Bowman. So talk about Elliott, CJ.
Elliott, I think, got screwed last week. Didn't really expect a whole ton out of him. So I think he might be on the verge of getting hot. And I think last week we saw him, again, kind of like we saw him come to life after he was a pushover for so long. And then he finally got his first win, stand up for himself. And the attitude that he showed after the race, He's here to fight for the team. Hendrick cars being the best one. I think he's probably the second best Hendrick driver right now. So I would rank him Elliott, Byron, and then Bowman in terms of my list. And I just ended up going with Elliott, just one of the three.
Eric, you went with Bowman, just like I did. What about Bowman?
I just like these last two playoff races there. I just feel like they found something. It seems like they get better when the lights come on in Vegas. I don't know why. This race will end under the lights, and Hendrick looks better now than they have the years prior. So I felt that's probably good for a couple spots. And then, do I think he's going to come out and win? No, because they're coming back to Vegas next year, and it seems like every place Bowman wins, they'll never go back to. So, but I feel like for his odds, he's right there. So I just thought we'll go Bowman because he's good for a few spots.
Why'd you take him over Byron?
Because Byron, this isn't statistically a great track for him. I feel like he's just going to be in front. I feel like Byron's going to get a top 10. He's a great fantasy play. I just don't know if he can win. I just don't trust that he's going to win. Where Bowman's won 3 times already this year. I feel like if anybody's going to win the race, I'm going to put my money more on Bowman. And Elliott, I just ran out of money at that point.
Right.
I just didn't have anything left.
Okay. Truex and Harvick are 9-1. Nobody took Truex. I'm the only one to put money on Harvick. I just can't discount 5th, 8th, and 2nd in his 3 playoff races. And 2nd, where he almost won last week. It's just, this is a time. And 2nd at Kansas, which was his best result until last week, the entire season. So his best race was at Kansas. And then, he's got a couple of wins here. He's led a ton of laps here. So I just figured, look, this is it. Is Harvick for real? Okay, I'll put some money on him. But nobody taking Truex. I was kind of surprised nobody decided to put money on Truex. 4th, 1st, and 7th in the playoffs. 2 wins here. 6th at Kansas. 6th at this track earlier this year. So why did nobody take Truex, CJ?
To me, he's comfortable. I don't think he's as hungry. I mean, we talked about the points race being very, very tight, and it is. But if you look right under Larson, who's top of the list right now even over Hamlin, it's Truex. So if Truex has the opportunity to go out there and win, I think he will, certainly. But I think Hamlin and Kyle probably are a little bit more hungry. So I don't see Truex being as aggressive as those two. So despite his good history, plus the fact, earlier this year, I think he what was he, top 5, if I'm not mistaken, but nothing like overly spectacular. That race was pretty much dominated by the Chevrolets again.
And why did you decide no Harvick, Eric?
I just don't trust him. I feel like this race is always going to be, it's going to be a speed factor. Same way I didn't take Truex. I don't think he has the speed to hang with a Hamlin or a Larson, any of the 4 Hendrick cars. And this track, more times than not, is a late race restart. And Truex told me last year, even when I asked, he used to be the 1.5 mile king. Nobody was beating Truex a 1.5 mile. And I asked him what happened, and he said restarts, late race restarts. This package is not to my liking for these tracks. And you see these restarts, and I'm not comfortable making it 4 or 5 wide. I know points. I value points too. I want to be sure, let those guys take themselves out, and I'll just take a top 5. Where in the past, on the old package, we didn't have those restarts. I was leading. I was just gone in the way. So I have a feeling we're going to see a late race restart again, maybe even 10 to go, 15, something late in the race. That's Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin time. I just don't feel like Truex is going to be a great top 5. I just didn't feel like he would win. And same reasons for Harvick. Vegas is the track I circled to that used to be a Stewart-Haas Racing dominated track. And you look at Harvick, prior to the string, he had 3 top 4s in 4 races. And the one that he didn't win, he wasn't up there. He crashed while leading. It just seemed like this used to be Harvick's track. And Stewart-Haas since 8th, 10th, 20th for him. He's just going backwards. I feel like they can't find the speed there. And when Keselowski's saying that 550 tracks are Ford's worst tracks in general, combine all that together, I'm like, I don't think Harvick's winning this race. I feel like he'd be lucky to get a top 10. To me, would be a good day for Kevin Harvick.
Well,
I just didn't trust
after what happened last week, is Kevin Harvick the driver that if he finds himself in a position that he thinks on one of these late restarts that he's close enough to a Kyle Larson or somebody, and he knows he doesn't have the speed, that he's going to have to do whatever he has to do to win a race, do you feel Kevin Harvick will do that?
I do, but I almost wonder now because I never looked at the factor of running people in their left rear to create a loose wheel or the cut tires, something like that. I feel like Chase Elliott just put him on notice. And if I'm a driver racing against him, knowing that, now that you say that, I have seen Kevin Harvick do that. And he's a generally a nice guy. I don't know if he knows that they know that's the move he's going to make. I feel like people are going to negate that move. Hey, he's going to try to get to my left rear. I'm not going to let it happen. I feel like that's going to hurt him. I feel like he's not going to be able to do these moves because people are expecting it coming. And I feel like he may not want to do that move because people know that if he does it, there may be a fight afterwards. There's going to be people
Harvick
mad.
Wins, I don't think he'll care. I think he'll fight.
No, I don't think he will.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's got the speed to get there. And
he's got to get to the bumper. He's got to be there.
He's going to have to. I almost wonder if he's the Michael McDowell of this round. I think he's fallen that far back as far as you've
what an
you
insult.
put him against these other drivers. Yeah, I don't mean to insult him that way, but I just feel like
Michael
he's that far
McDowell.
off.
Wow, Kevin Harvick.
I think you're going to look up. He's going to be 20, 30 points. Yeah.
Well, I completely agree. I think Harvick is a genuinely nice guy. I've talked to him many times. I think he's getting aggressive. He's feeling the pressure. That's exactly what we want from him. I am a Kevin Harvick fan, but I mean, go back to Las Vegas earlier this year. He finished 20th. And he didn't even finish in stage points in either stage. So it's not like he had speed early in the race and fell off. He didn't have speed the entire race. So I agree with Eric. I think if you get him in a situation in a late restart, he's going to be a wrecking ball for sure. And if he wins, that's all that matters. And he knows at this point that he has to be that aggressive in order to get it done, I think. And I agree with Eric. I think that's going to play against him.
If he does pretty well this week, finishes 5th, 6th, doesn't lead laps, he's going to be a contender next week. That's how.
Then I'm back.
Yeah.
Totally agree. I think if we see it for one more week, certainly this week, I'm back in on Kevin Harvick. I did say last week that I wouldn't be surprised to see Kevin Harvick come out and dominate a race before the season is over. That very well could happen. I don't think it's going to be this week, though.
Okay, and as far as all the other long shots, the only other 2 drivers that we put a few bucks on, and that was just me and Eric, because CJ doesn't go that route very often. And that was, and he's probably wise to do that because these drivers hardly ever win.
That's why I run out of money for the Chase Elliott's. I always throw long shots and they never win.
And that was, I put a few bucks on Di Benedetto, who's finished 2nd in 2 of the last 3 races at Vegas and 4th at Kansas this year. So he's at 50-1. Meanwhile, Eric, you put a few bucks on Chastain, who's definitely been a much different driver over the last month or so.
Yeah, I like the Benedetto too, and I thought, like, is he actually going to win? We've seen his restart problems at Talladega here the last couple of years. Like, he's a solid fantasy play, but Chastain's aggressive. We know he's not afraid to do that, and his first Xfinity win was at Las Vegas. Chip Ganassi Racing's always had good cars there. Kurt Busch won this race last year. You look at like Larson, like I said, he was a few years ago, he was 2nd, 3rd, and 2nd. And the year after that, 2nd and 3rd, and then 2nd the year after that at Vegas. And he's got that car. So we saw what he did in the first round. I feel like he's got speed. He's got a Chevrolet. If there's anybody that can steal a win, a non-playoff driver, he was my top pick. I feel like a playoff driver is probably going to win here on out. But if you got a guy that's going to steal it, that's not in the playoffs, he's the guy. So I threw some money his way.
Yeah, and not a bad idea too, because Kurt Busch, defending champ. And Kurt Busch also won Atlanta this year, so, but it looks like he's heading in the wrong direction. So that's why Chastain is probably even a more interesting pick. He's 100-1 compared to Kurt's 25-1.
I feel like, and CJ, correct me if I'm wrong, I would like to see in the past when we saw these drivers change. When you get to this point of the year, it used to be the driver coming in would just take that car over. Like, I feel bad that the Benedetto is like a lame duck. It's like, these people checked out. Kurt Busch, your team's checked out. Like, I would rather see Harrison Burton jump in that car. Some other guys that are coming up that that guy's not going to be there. It used to happen all the time. You'd get to these races and you'd see the next guy just like, hey, what are we waiting for? Let's just throw him in. And granted, I get there's a new car coming next year. Nothing translates over. But like at the Benedetto, like I just feel bad for him. It's like you're racing for a team that you're not even running with them next year. So how much debriefs do they do? How much do you really try? So that's the one thing that these lame duck situations, like Kurt Busch, I thought about throwing money his way. He won this race last. This is his home track. What does he have to lose? But it's like, how much are they really fighting behind the scenes? Like, we're going to be working for a whole new operation next year. Why do I going to throw all my hard-earned effort to this car? So yeah, maybe they put in more effort if that driver next year is coming in. You might get a sleeper there that you never know.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I do think in terms of the long shots, though, Ross and Matt DiBenedetto would be the two that I would go with. And DiBenedetto only, well, he's been good here, but only for the sentimental reason, exactly like you said. I think he deserves a win. I think he deserves to be in this series, and I just want him to get it. This could be a place where he does get it, but it would take a lot for him to overcome the rest of the field.
You know, his best chance might be next week.
Agreed.
There you go.
He's got a chance next week. And also Stenhouse, 11th or better in 3 of his last 5, including a 3rd last March. He was 11th this March. Jones, 3 top 10s in 8 races, including in his last 2. 10th this year and 8th last September. So Eric Jones at 150 to 1, Stenhouse at 100 to 1. And that's pretty much it. So guys, Talladega next week. By the way, you're a little shaky on Kyle now to win the championship. So who's your backup to win right now, Eric? Because let me take a look at your backup. When we were going over, your sleeper was Christopher Bell, but your other playoff Final Four drivers were Blaney, Elliott, and Larson.
Probably Larson, yeah, but I don't.
Are you going to join the Larson club?
Right now, yeah. What scares me about him is Phoenix. He's never been like you're gonna have to win Phoenix. That's what scares me.
And he's gonna have a ton of pressure on him.
It's only going to be a 4-car race. Remember,
that is true.
Exactly. Exactly.
Get out of the way,
he's
everybody.
Got to be together. You know, I looked into this for the stat for IndyCar for my article, and because I'm comparing it to NASCAR final race. Since 1992, only 4 times has 6 times since 1992. Has a driver that won the IndyCar championship won the season finale. It's happened 7 straight years for NASCAR. It's like, come on, don't insult us. We know what you're doing. Those 4 cars have, but if you give them equal, then yeah, Kyle Larson's gonna. If you give them all equal, Kyle Larson's gonna beat them. But Hamlin and Logano and Truex have stuck out to me as favorites for Phoenix. But can they get there? And if it's those 4 drivers, I think Larson's going to beat him. I'm not sold Kyle Busch anymore. If Kyle Busch can get there, yeah, he's great at Phoenix. But yeah.
Well, just remember though, again, Kyle's never been in that spot before. It has affected Denny Hamlin. It affects every athlete. You know, at some point, some athletes just don't get over it. We don't know. We won't know until Kyle Larson is in that spot. Because if he's in Phoenix, he is going to be the heavy favorite. Everybody's going to expect him to win. And how will he handle it? So,
yep.
All right, guys. So, Eric, what are you working on? RaceReviewOnline.net.
Bunch of IndyCar stuff with it being the last race. So, and the next week is all in on NASCAR there for the rest of the season. Just so yeah, bunch of IndyCar.
So, where is the last race? California.
Long Beach.
Long Beach.
Yep.
When is it?
Street course race. Sunday before the Cup race. So it'll be Long Beach.
Back to back.
We'll lead in. Yep, we'll lead right into the NASCAR race.
CJ?
So, yeah.
Fantasy previews for Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup on rotowire.com. And then after Sunday's Cup race, we'll have NASCAR Barometer up there as well, sometime on Monday.
And I was very disappointed at the Colts losing to the Rams.
Yeah, that was...
very disappointed. Of course, Carson Wentz leaving the game at the wrong time.
Oh, yeah. I'm suspect on being there finally because I used to pay a ton of attention to the Colts because I covered them, hometown team. I like them, but the last few years it's been all racing and then right into football. I'm just so busy to pay attention on Sundays and to go to a game and it's like, is this what I've been missing? You drive down the field in the first possession, you get to the 1 yard line and you run up the middle for 3 straight plays and then you go a passing play.
It's like, I know.
And then you do a shovel. The next drive, you do the
shovel
same damn thing, and you shovel pass to the other team. Like, did you not notice he's wearing the other color? Like, what was that?
Yeah,
it's like So that's the Colts for you. And then you come back and have a chance to win.
And you
the
still
game.
have the chance to win.
Yeah, and it's like wow.
And then where's the quarterback?
That's what I thought. Like, because we were lucky to be in a suite with actually ABC supplied the shirt. I went.
Awesome.
Coincidentally enough, I didn't play this. Yeah, we were in a suite, and it's like I had the TV up there and I wasn't listening to it. And I just look up and a guy in the suite over, I hear him say, "Oh, the backup's coming." I'm like, "We benched Wentz on the final possession.
Yeah,
what? This is going to end exactly how I thought it was going to end." And I told the kids, "Let's beat the traffic."
Yeah, absolutely.
And I hear the interception, and I'm already out the door. I'm like, I timed this one perfect.
Yes.
And then the 3-year-old says, as we get down to the street level, you could go right back into the stadium and left the lead. He goes, "I got to pee." I'm like, okay. So
you ruined all your momentum.
Did, because by the time we fought the people, they come back out, the game ended, and I was like, "Oh, okay." So we didn't have to leave the street.
You got to bring a bottle next time.
Exactly. I should have, and then we sat in traffic and
you see,
got home to catch the IndyCar race, the end of that, cover that, and then bed I went. So
well,
interesting stuff.
It could be a long season. Only Carson Wentz can bust both ankles.
Yeah, exactly. In the same game.
Yeah.
How about your boy Darnold, 2-0?
Yeah, it's a long season. Trust me. All right. We'll talk again next week, hopefully. Talladega week. We'll see how it all goes, unless Kyle Larson dominates and it's a snooze fest. Hopefully it won't be. So, guys, appreciate it, and enjoy your weekend.
Thank you. Appreciate it.